In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Marianne's guests are leaders in their field, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in their own work. They teach others to develop, refocus, and grow. Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. And remember, make every moment count.
Hello and welcome to Moments with Marianne. Today, my special guest is Brad Kronen. He's described as a tarot master by the Huffington Post and has been using his talents as a professional astrologer and tarot reader for the past 25 years. So Brad's been also noted on TV. He was in The Real Housewives of Orange County on the Bravo Network, and they had a Astrological Party, which was actually a pretty fun episode to watch. And he recently wrote an upcoming book. It's going to be out soon called Love in the Stars. So welcome, Brad.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you for being on my show. I saw your book. It kind of popped up in Llewellyn's feed, and it looks so interesting. I just had to reach out and have you on the show.
Oh, thank you. That's great to hear.
Yeah. Well, I know a little bit about astrology. I don't profess to know a whole lot, so you're going to be doing some educating here during the show. So,
no problem.
So why don't you tell me how did you first become interested in astrology?
It was back in college. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology, and I picked up my first astrology book back then, and I noticed how similar the two studies were, because psychology is the study of human behavior and in all its variations, and in actuality, so is astrology. So when I realized that connection, I devoured every astrology book I could find, and just it became more and more part of the big picture grid on how I look.
Oh, now did you go get readings from other astrologers so you can kind of see what it is that they knew or how that resonated with you?
Yeah,
or did you
absolutely.
Just know that
you did? A friend of mine and I went to New York. I was in Connecticut at the time, and we went to an astrologer, and from then on, I got various readings from various people, and compared, contrasted, and then came into my own as an astrologer. And but it's always good to start off with going to other people and seeing what comes out of that and how you feel about it.
Yeah, you can develop how you want. I mean, you're amazingly gifted, so I'm sure you didn't need this. But for someone that's new, maybe they can look at it and decide, hey, what types of styles they like or don't like, or how information's being given.
Yeah, and in regards to astrology textbooks, there's some that are far too technical that, if you don't have an astrological background, it's going to be complicated. And there are some that are far too laid back and not really they're nebulous. So the thing I enjoy about my book is it's in a writing style that's very easy to comprehend, whether you know a lot about astrology or nothing at all.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, because I've seen those books, and they can be kind of daunting. You look at them, it's like it's like you're holding something to build a rocket ship with,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's terms like there's a lot of terms out there. Just hearing the interrelation with certain planets, that you're like, wow, just hearing the word quincunx is a little bit daunting. Things like that.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And and since I'm somewhat new in this, I know a little bit about it. That so when you made this connection, it seems like you just knew automatically that this was kind of your parallel road, to get involved in psychology and also into astrology.
Correct. Yeah, because a person's sun sign. So like whatever your birthday is and however you read your horoscope, where the sun is when you're born, that's basically the essence of your core personality. There's a lot more in astrology that makes you you astrologically, but that core sense of self, what the sun sign is, it helps you understand a lot about a person, just their overall essence, and that in turn helps you to relate to them.
Oh, that's fascinating. That's fascinating. So, to fully understand someone's path, you would have them go and do a birth chart where they find out where the planets were at the time they were born.
Yeah, I explained that a birth chart is a freeze frame of where the planets were at the moment and the location of your birth. And all those, so each planet is in what we call a sign and a house, and those combinations together all equal you as a holistic person astrologically. And there are many variations to a person's overall personality, of course, but the sun sign is a key essence of how you are overall. So the book focuses on two people coming together, looking at their sun signs and how they relate to each other, and understanding how to approach each other in the best way possible.
Oh, wow. Well, I learned something new.
Yeah. I think it helps a lot in understanding just an overall person's temperament and, approaching that in a way that's respectful of that versus going completely the opposite direction and then being like, what? It's a better way of understanding people initially so that you get along better right away.
Oh, that's good. It's kind of like a marker in the road saying this is what to expect, and with this type of, with someone that's born here with these, they'll have these type of traits typically.
Exactly right. And I mean, I have people that argue like, well, you can't define me by a sun sign. Of course not. Every person is unique and individualized. Mm-hmm. But with that said, knowing a person's essence or core sense of self helps a great deal with understanding them and getting to know them when you first meet them.
Well, and this is, astrology is a pretty ancient practice from what I understand.
That it is.
Something that was, it wasn't just drummed up in the 60s because, they were, thinking of fun things to do.
as a matter of fact, in the Bible, the three kings, the Magi, from the birth of Christ, they're astrologers. They say we've followed the star in the east. We've analyzed the sky, and there's been a change, and we're following this change based on our astrological knowledge.
Oh, that, and you know what, and that makes perfect sense. I mean, that all comes along together. Because they had to follow that star for quite some time to get to where they needed to go.
Yeah, and they theorized that the Star of Bethlehem, whether you believe in it or not, was a really, really illuminated Jupiter that was going in retrograde or backwards motion and forward motion over the town of Bethlehem with Mars and Venus next to it. So it was especially unusually bright. And so they are confirming that some sort of astrological configuration happened at that time period. It's very interesting.
Oh, it's fabulous to be able to go back and see how this, how that came into being. Now, so the cover of your book looks phenomenal. I was looking at this and like, I've got to get my hands on this book. So it's Love in the Stars. And so what made you write this book?
There is one staple book my book is concentrated on astrology and relationships, how to meet someone romantically with an astrological foundation in mind. And there's one book that has been a staple called Linda Goodman's Love Signs, and it's still very popular even today. And it was written in 1978, and Ms. Goodman herself passed away 20 years ago. And I thought, there needs to be a more updated version for the 21st century person who's looking for love and needs an astrological foundation of knowledge. And so that's it was more of a force of necessity than anything else.
Oh, that's fabulous. And so it's written in layman's terms. So if someone doesn't know anything about astrology and wonders how this works with relationships, they can pick up your book and gain a quick understanding on and every chapter,
exactly right. And every chapter is a combination of all 144 sign combinations of like an Aries dating an Aries, Aries dating a Taurus, Aries dating a Gemini, so on and so forth. But it's written in a 21st century point of view so that, it's up to date so people can understand it more readily available with where they are today.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. You just, go right to what it is that you need to know and get that information. Now, that must have taken some time to compile that information and get that together.
It did. Every single chapter is an individual kind of unique combo of one sign dating another sign, and what to expect when you first meet, how to approach each other when you first meet, what to expect over long periods of time, and, the different kind of aspects to it in relation to being in the 21st century.
Well, and I can easily see now why the Real Housewives of Orange County had you come in and chat with them, because they kind of had some drama going on. But it looked, that it was interesting to, watch that episode and just really see the information you gave them and just how they ripped back, they went back saying how all that stuff came true. It was pretty cool watching.
Yeah, I was pretty pleased that the Bravo Network kind of put my descriptions into the episode, and they called it the Astrology Party, and it ended up being quite a favorite amongst a lot of the Real Housewives fans.
Yeah, it was pretty entertaining, and for our listeners who haven't had the opportunity to check that out, you definitely want to go and look that up. It's on Brad's YouTube, so you can go and look at that. Now, from an astrology point of view, who inspires you?
Astrologically, I have a mentor who I just think is the greatest source of information, and her name is Liz Green. I have a background, as I mentioned, in psychology, and Liz Green is a Jungian Carl Jung analyst. And Carl Jung is he's one of the biggest forces in psychology as far as, determining a school of thought. And he was from Switzerland originally, and Liz Green has set up an institute of astrological study in Switzerland, in Carl Jung's hometown. And she holistically provides psychology mixed with astrology to have a viewpoint that's utterly unique and very, very, I think it's just karmically sound and a great way to live life by. And she's very prolific and has a number of books out there. And I just attended 2 of her webinars for the first time. It was thrilling to hear her speak live. But she's my biggest inspiration is Liz Green.
Have you ever met her in person or not yet?
I plan on it. That's one of my goals. Going to her webinar was it was a fascinating experience to hear her speak live, and it was just everything that came out of her mouth was just so interesting to hear, and it totally resonated in me as well.
Oh my goodness! And especially since you both come from this similar background, a similar path, So that's like that psychology portion with this, the spiritual astrology portion as well. So that's pretty cool. Yeah,
and on top of it, I'm a historian too, so I like to look at current events and past events in an astrological viewpoint, and that's another forte of hers that she focuses on as well.
Oh, well, you two definitely need to meet, and I'm sure she'd probably love to read your book.
Hopefully, I'd be thrilled if that happened. So,
yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. My gut's telling me probably so. Now, for someone who's not in astrology, who's one of the people that really inspires you?
Many people may not be familiar with her, but her name is Malala Yousafzai, and she is a Pakistani girl. And she is the youngest person to be given the Nobel Peace Prize. She won that last year in 2014. She was age 17, ripe old age of 17. She wins the Nobel Peace Prize. But interestingly enough, I heard her first speak when she was 11 years old. Yes, that young, on the BBC.
Oh my goodness.
And she gave presentations on what it's like to grow up in Pakistan and the Taliban took over. She has had harrowing experiences like being shot point blank. They didn't kill her. Yes. And she is a voice of education for girls. She is a big, big pioneer in emphasizing that all people should have the right to education. And a lot of cultures and countries don't believe in women or girls being educated, and she's making sure she's changing that as far as she can, and she's really an inspiration for all of us.
Yeah, do you know, I get her newsletter, and I have just been following her, and I think it was perfect giving her the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, she's just amazing.
I was thrilled. I was absolutely thrilled. I wrote a whole 3-part series on it because astrologically, I discovered that she is what's called a triple cardinal sign. Cardinal signs are signs that love beginning things from scratch or starting things from nothing, from the base point of creation. And I'm not surprised. Most Peace Prize winners, the Nobel Peace Prize winners, they are cardinal signs, and because a lot of times they've got nothing to work with or no resources, and they still are able to make something happen, and they're able to make an impression on the areas in which they live based on their resources and how creative they are with what they've done. And she's a great example of that.
Oh my goodness, that's good to know. So cardinal signs, person that can just, take something from scratch and make it something magnificent.
On that note, we're going to pause here for a quick break, and we'll get right back to talking with Brad Kronen here, author of Love in the Stars, an astrologist to the stars. We'll be right back.
Are you dreading your next business trip with all of the unhealthy food choices? Well, eating healthy while on the road for business is no longer a hopeless battle. Natasha Leger, a road warrior herself, not a doctor, dietitian, or nutritionist, but a real-life business person, understands the unique stresses of business travel and has written a book to inspire us and show us how easy it is to make healthy choices while on the road. Order Travel Healthy, a road warrior's guide to eating healthy at TravelHealthyBook.com. That's TravelHealthyBook.com.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com. Ben Wexler is a gifted leadership development and strategy consultant for professionals who want to transform their organizations and careers. Through a uniquely personalized set of processes, participants discover their unique knowledge, how to leverage that knowledge and experience, and then put it all together with a global strategy. You're more valuable, your organization is more valuable, and the change is viral. Contact Ben at 630-881-1074. 630-881-1074.
In 2012, after returning home from Iraq and Afghanistan, Sean Gobin hiked over 2,000 miles of the Appalachian Trail. Recognizing the therapeutic effects of long-distance hiking, Sean founded Warrior Expeditions, a veteran nonprofit therapy program that supports veterans transitioning from their military service by hiking America's national scenic trails. Equipment and supplies are provided, as well as assistance with job placement. For more info or to help support these veterans, visit warriorexpeditions.org.
Hello and welcome back to Moments with Marianne. We are here with special guest Brad Kronen. He's been talking to us about his new book, Love in the Stars, He's an expert astrologer. And before we left for break, we were talking about cardinal signs. So, Brad, can you explain a little bit more about cardinal signs?
The cardinal signs are at the beginning of each of the 4 seasons. So it's Aries, Cancer, Capricorn, and Libra. They start the beginning of each season of spring, summer, fall, and winter.
Oh, that is super cool. Now, so people can have cardinal signs to do really good things, and also, I mean, because the stars don't determine good or bad, it's, you know, how a person lives their life. So if someone has this capability to create something awesome, it can go either way based on their life.
Absolutely right. And I tell people every single aspect of the universe has good and bad qualities. There's nothing in this world that is all good or all bad. For example, if you're born in a cardinal sign, or if you have a large propensity of cardinal energy in your chart, you may be good at starting things, but the challenge that you have to look at is follow through. A lot of cardinal signs are very good at starting things. They tend to drop things and don't have that follow through to complete what they so brilliantly started. On the flip side of the point, if you're a fixed sign, the fixed signs are in the middle of each season. Leo, Scorpio, Taurus, Aquarius, starting things is hard for them. Like that motivation to get that initial spark going, that's the challenge. The follow-through part, they are excellent. Once they get started, they make sure something's completed. So every sign and every aspect to anything, I believe, in life has possibilities and potentials, but we also have to be aware of that there are limitations and that there are drawbacks that we should incorporate and not let it determine the overall results.
Oh, that's fabulous. So that way we can look at it and say, okay, well, these areas are really strong and these areas might be a little bit weak, and so to pay attention for these things.
Exactly. Correct.
Oh, that's fabulous. That's absolutely fabulous. Now, do you have like a favorite like astrological story that you could share? We'll keep the names safe to protect the innocent, kind of thing.
Oh, wow. I mean, there's so many independent discoveries that I've made about astrology that I just am in shock. For example, Christmas time is coming up, and the thing that always fascinated me with Santa Claus is an image that pretty much has transcended religion. And if you ask any little kid, pretty much anywhere around the world, for the most part, they're going to recognize that Santa Claus. Well, I did some research, astrologically and otherwise, and it boils down to a historical person being alive in real time, Nicholas of Smyrna. He was a Turkish bishop in the 4th century. And long story short, I did a 4-part series on that, and what I discovered was, so Jupiter is considered the planet of luck, and it's also considered literally the planet of saints. But Jupiter, when I researched, the man's feast day is like December 6th, but in certain countries they say, oh, we celebrate St. Nicholas Day on December 5th as well. We believe that's his birthday. So I looked up in an ephemeris, which is a listing of where the planets were, and I discovered that on his supposed birth time, which is back in the 4th century, Jupiter was in the most possible best place to optimally function. And I said, you know what? It doesn't matter if the man existed or not. It's a sign that all of us have goodwill towards men, and that this image has been elevated for us to remember every year, that not only at Christmas time, but throughout the year, we have it within us to be good to each other.
Oh, that's fabulous. And
I was just thrilled to discover that.
Oh, that is really, that's amazing. Now, is that in your book?
That's on my website, bradkronen.com. It's going to be my December installation has a lot of Christmas articles of what I've discovered on my own. I'm a really prolific writer as far as astrology with current events and with history in the past. So that's coming up at Christmas time, along with things on. I did like the Pearl Harbor, the commemoration of December 7th. The significance of that event astrologically. So I discussed a lot of things in December that I'm posting on my website, bradkronen.com.
Oh, yeah, and I've visited your website. It's got a lot of great information, and I highly suggest our listeners go and check that out. Now you did mention something that piques my interest a little bit. You talked about, Pearl Harbor and the significance of that. Is that something that you care to share, or is that coming out in a post so you'd rather wait?
Let's put it this way. When the 70th anniversary happened, and that was in 2011, back when I was a little kid, when there was no internet or computers, really, I was a family genealogist, and I was at a funeral for my grandmother, and there was a person sitting there that I'd never met, and I come to discover it was a cousin of mine who was at Pearl Harbor. Well, I grabbed a notebook, and I was a pen, and I interviewed him. And so I thought to myself, with the 2011 commemoration of the 70th anniversary, I wonder if astrologically there was something that was significant on that day. So I pulled a chart for that moment when Ford Island was hit first at that exact minute. And what came up was the rarest astrological configuration possible that I thought, whoa. I thought, I need to research this. And I fully researched it, and it's just been a really rewarding experience to see that moment in history was really pivotal, because the U.S. was neutral in the war. We weren't even involved in the war, and people don't realize the war had been going on for over 2 years by that point, and we were staunchly not going to get involved. Well, that's the event that changed everything, and people don't realize that at that moment in time, we were using the cavalry as our mobility forces for military exercises, and that we really had no air force. And so things like that, it was a jump start for us to wake up, to modernize, and to fight the forces of fascist aggression.
Oh, definitely. Well, my great-grandparents immigrated to Hawaii from Portugal. And so so my great-grandmother was there during Pearl Harbor. In fact, they were on their way to church when the bombing started. They were on Oahu. Yeah, so they were there for many, many years, and you hear a few of the stories. And so when you mention that, I'm like, ooh, but I'm looking forward to your full article. I can't wait to read that, because I have a feeling.
What's amazing is my cousin said, yeah, I got up early that particular morning, and I heard some planes coming, and I didn't think anything of it because the majority of the fleet were out doing maneuvers in the Pacific Ocean. So it's amazing. That's another factor where it's like, oh, on that particular day, it just happened to be most of the fleet wasn't there. They were doing something else. But he had kamikazes attack his plane, and I said, that's how you discovered you were being attacked? Literally, a kamikaze plane flew right at him. And the pilot must not know what he was doing because the plane didn't explode. But he's like, oh, that's not one of our planes. I think we're being attacked. So I have it mixed with the interview with him, mixed in with the actual research that I did. It's a really fascinating concept.
Yeah, I know it was an absolute horrific scene to be a part of. I know my grandparents, because most people didn't get information at all. Because you're on this island. Absolutely. It's way back in the day,
Yeah. So, and you wonder how people with the slowness of communication, like, it just must have been quite an interesting experience to be there and be like, wow, this is just going on. But I did that every major event in history. If you analyze it astrologically, the significance behind it is literally astounding. And September 11th being one of the best examples I can think of. That's a literal translation,
Yeah. The 9/11, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, because Saturn, the planet of structure, was in the sign of the Twin Towers, and Pluto was in the sign of Sagittarius. And Gemini is an air sign, Pluto is death, and Sagittarius is a fire sign. You have death plus air plus fire plus twins plus structure, and then you have 9/11, pretty much in a nutshell with that one symbolic act,
Yeah. Well, with all this information about the past, where do you think astrology is headed for the future?
Well, it's interesting because a lot of people, I get another factor which added to me writing this book is I have a lot of great clients that are just really super people, and they just have not been able to meet anyone romantically, and they're really frustrated by it, and they'll say to me, I don't want to meet someone on the internet. That's not who I am, and it's not how it makes me too comfortable. But I wanted to give some sort of manual with meeting people, but I see astrology being needed more and more and more, because with the computer age, it's really distanced us. Even though we all have access to information at our fingertips now, and everything's available to us, it's kind of made us socially detached and distant from each other more and more and more. In the case of such things like bullying online and things like that, people think they can say whatever they want to a computer screen and don't realize words have targets. Words hit people, you know. And so it's important for astrology to be emphasized as we go into the future. It's not something that needs to be kind of thrown back with the past, because we all need to understand each other much better, with things being more advanced technologically, because it's only distancing us as a society.
Oh, definitely. And you know, you just, especially if you're meeting somebody online, you know, for the people that do that, I mean, you have to really take people at face value, because that's what you get.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's not like bumping to somebody in the coffee shop and, you know, a spark happens, although those are great times when those things happen. But on an online dating situation, I mean, people put their best foot forward. And so it's kind of good to know whether or not, you know, this person would be a good fit or not. And that's probably, you know, doing it through astrology is probably one of the easiest ways to do it without having to, you know, invest too much time or energy or what have you. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And dating in the 21st century is a whole new ball game with the computer age. I mean, and so you need every bit of help that you can get, I believe.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, and so you meet somebody, they could be a really good friend, not necessarily a boyfriend or girlfriend, you know? So
correct.
That,
absolutely
right.
So
it can separate all that.
Yeah. And there are certain sign combinations, and I just want to clarify. I'll have people approach me and say, I'm with fill in the sign. I'm with a Virgo, a Taurus, a Capricorn. Is that good or is that bad? I said, it is what it is. Every sign combination can work. It's just that some combinations take more work than others just to achieve a state of equilibrium. So, you know, before anyone opens that book, it's just understand that you can make any combination of signs work. It's just understanding that some signs you have to roll your sleeves up a little harder than others when compared to yours.
Well, that's good to hear, because I think some people have the thought that, oh, if I'm this sign or that sign, we won't get along. And, you know, I just might as well throw in the towel, even though there might be real potential there.
Exactly right. Or they're like, well, I just don't date blank, Aries, Sagittarius, whatever. And I always say, give it a try, have an open mind, but understand where they're coming from for their sign's essence, and relate that to you in advance with understanding that's where they come from. That's different from your placement.
Definitely. Now, so when people, so let's say a couple and they have compatible signs, what advice would you give them?
So first off, whether a couple is astrologically compatible or incompatible, I tell pretty much everyone, communication is the key for any relationship to survive and to thrive.
That's true.
And to continue in the long term, because if you don't communicate, you're really going to go downhill fast. Now, say a couple is astrologically compatible, and I tell people you get along best, romantically and otherwise, with your own elements. So there's 4 elements: earth, air, fire, water. So say, for example, you got a couple comprised of 2 fire signs. They get along well. I always tell them, don't ever assume, because things are going well, when signs are compatible, there's like this harmonious, in sync feel that things run pretty smoothly. Don't assume that's always going to be like that. If there's any worry or doubt that one partner should experience, voice it, talk about it, and don't assume like, oh, it'll work out, or it will eventually be fine. If you have an issue, bring it up. And interestingly enough, you'd be surprised how many couples have that issue happen where but they're like, well, I just didn't think it was a big deal, and it turns out to snowball into a very big deal.
Yeah, because they just didn't even bother talking about it, and the other partner's expecting it to just be status quo, or
And they made assumptions. And my fourth grade teacher, Sister Rita, would say to me, "When you assume, you make an ass of you and me." So.
Oh, don't you love that?
I always use that because that's
you know
thing. What? That's so true in every way.
It definitely is. What a wise woman,
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a really good way of putting it because, I mean, again, the communication piece, making sure that you're talking with people, your partner, and life happens. It's not going to be roses all the time,
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Sometimes you end up with manure instead. So.
And for example, so say you have a couple that's incompatible, and that's going to happen a lot. You're going to go if you go to my book and you meet someone new, and their sign is really incompatible with yours, that's not to say it's doomed, and that's not to say don't bother, don't even try. But with incompatible couples, it's going to take both sides of the fence have to really put their elbow grease and work at it consistently together. And communication is even more crucial of a factor for it to work out well. My parents were born under incompatible signs, and they had one of the best marriages I could think of amongst married couples. But they openly communicated all the time. They always freely spoke and conversed and said their thoughts, spoke their mind, even if it went against what the other one inherently felt about things. But they were always communicating.
That's fabulous. And what a great, it sounds like that you had everything aligned just perfectly for you to be in the place that you are, for being the writer, this fabulous book, and doing the astrology work that you do with people in regards to romance, because you see all the pieces that are just so important, in order to make things work all the way around, not just with, it's the stars and it's psychology and your personal experience that you really draw upon, from what I'm hearing.
And what's interesting is with observing my parents, the differences they had by their signs being incompatible, they kept that in mind and worked with that and used that always like in the back of their minds to incorporate how to make things go smoothly.
Now, did they know their signs, or did they more know that, hey, this is what makes our relationship work?
They did not know anything about astrology. They did not. They had no knowledge about it whatsoever, but they had inherent differences of personality that were quite clear that they worked.
Yeah, I had an aunt and uncle that were kind of the same thing, and they were comical.
Well, and the funny thing is, with the essence of fighting or arguing, that in a way is communication, as long as it's done in a way that's healthy. There are sometimes you just have to clear the deck and get things off your chest and have a little fight here and there. That's kind of a healthy thing, because at least it's still communication.
Yeah, for sure. Now, okay, so, do you know what? So with this great information, with your family and the work that you've been doing, how do you see romance in the future?
So there are particular signs that are very, very romantically inclined, such as Taurus and Libra. They're ruled by the planet Venus, and they'll come to me and they'll say, romance doesn't exist anymore, chivalry's dead. And that may be the case currently, but I see romance as something that is almost integral to society, working itself into the future to help it kind of function still. Because when we're romantic, our goal is to make another person feel incredibly special and to make them feel that they're loved in a most particular way. And if anything, that's going to be needed more than ever with, as I said, the technological age, people getting more detached, more unfamiliar with, basic civil ways of behaving towards each other. So that even though romance may seem like it's going extinct, it's even more needed than ever just to on the sheer principle of we make another person, we consider someone else, and we try to make them feel very special.
Well, well, I'm a Libra, and I know actually I have quite a few friends that are Libra, and some that are single, and some that are married. And I'm a single Libra, but my whole thing is that I look at all the love that I currently have in my life. I'm surrounded by just amazing people, wonderful friends, and I have more love than probably some people who are in relationships. So, it's like you have to be appreciative of that. Yeah.
That's look at Libra is a sign that literally they function best when they have one-on-one partnerships that are of equal, balance, kind of working with each other. And I tell every Libra, a one-on-one partnership extends well beyond romance. It could be a close friendship. It could be a close relationship with a student or with a teacher or with a boss. Those are very, very significant things that can make us feel fulfilled in life. And I tell every Libra as well, it's okay to be single for even just for 5 minutes. I know a lot of Libras that if they are not in a relationship, they panic and they have to jump right back into one. I tell every Libra, when you're single, you develop a sense of individuality that makes you even more of a catch, that makes you even more of an asset to someone else. So a lot of Libras can get a sense of losing their sense of identity by being enmeshed in a couple and being I call it, honey, what do you think syndrome. Well, I don't know, honey, what do you think? Where it's deferring to the partner, I think every Libra that has some single time, I think that does them a world of good.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I know a couple that, and I think my friend, she's a Libra. I don't know about her boyfriend, but it's like every time we get together, it's like they'll ask each other, what should we have for dinner? Well, I don't know. What do you think? And they go back and forth with this for a little while.
Now, let
me
say this one thing. I tell people that are dating a Libra, they're known for being indecisive. There, I'm just going to say it, okay? Now, they have a but that's the small scale things. But I tell people that if you're going on a date with a Libra, I don't care what sign you are, predetermine where you're going to eat and what movie you're going to see. They'll be actually appreciative that that's already pre-done because if you bring it up to the Libra and they have to kind of make a decision, you'll be sitting there a long time because it's not that they can't decide. They're weighing their options. Like, well, I would love some Chinese food, but then again, I'm in the mood for Italian, but I could have Vietnamese food too. And so the weighing. And so if you kind of predetermine, that's in the book as well. If you predetermine where you want to eat, what movie you want to see, you're going to save a lot of time just in that sense alone on a date with the Libra.
Either that or bring a snack.
Exactly. Correct.
Make allowances one way or the other.
Libras with small scale decisions, they're not that, they tend to hem and haw. But with big scale decisions, they're rather determined and they know exactly what they want. That must be clarified.
Oh, yeah. There's always the good aspects and the ones that are like, well, you got to watch out for these with any sign. Now,
with every given sign, positive and negative with every given sign.
We're just picking on Libras because I mentioned I was one. So if you're a Libra, don't feel picked on.
But I call Libras the kings and queens of small talk. They are the essence of charm, and they can talk to anybody from any walk of life. They can pick up a conversation with anybody, and I find that absolutely delightful about that sign.
Well,
so
hey, that's
what you're doing is perfect for your sign. How's that? You're doing perfect for your sign interviewing.
I'm exactly where I should be.
Exactly right.
Oh, my goodness. Well, thank you. Well, so how do you feel about same-sign couples? So you get somebody, let's say you get two Leos, and they're just like stubborn or at it or,
You couldn't have picked a better sign to give examples with. So let's use two Leos as an example of they like being king of their castle. Well, you can't have two kings ruling one castle. Let's say, for example, Madonna and Sean Penn. let's say Bennifer. What was it? It was Ben Affleck with Jennifer Lopez. The two Leos that are in the spotlight, they're used to getting what they want, or they're used to kind of directing things their way. You get someone of the same nature, you're gonna get mighty cramped in that spotlight, right? So, with two signs dating each other of the same kind, a lot of presumptions are made, like, oh, we're going to get along great because we're both the same sign. I specify that every sign, when it dates itself, has its own special type challenge that's unique, that you don't discover until you're dating one another, like, oh. So, like, for example, with certain signs, the strong traits come up, like with two Aries. Aries can be very combatant with each other. They can be very, forthcoming with what they want and when they want to do it in the moment. And so you get two of that, and there's going to be like, oh, wow, a clash. You get two signs that are on a more polite or more, like, for example, if you have two Venus-ruled signs, like two Tauruses, they're going to get used to not being too forward-thinking, and they're non-confrontational. So if they have an issue with one or the other, they're going to tend not to say anything, and that can really lead to resentment over time. So every particular sign, when it dates itself, has some key factors that need to be aware of that would not be obvious with just that sign unto itself. But when you combine it, it's really interesting. There's only one sign of the 12 that really can get along really well with its own sign and does swimmingly well. But I'm not going to tell you which one that is. You have to read the book.
I don't. Yeah, you got to get the book for that one. I know everyone's going to go pouring through that book for that 12 sign.
But Leo is a great example because as long as both parties understand you're going to have two kings ruling one castle or two royal personalities, then you can try to make that work. But man, when it doesn't work, it's quite a challenge. And most of the biggest, like, Hollywood divorces have been Leo oriented.
Oh, I bet. Well, and I bet your book would really help people understand each other, so that it would also in some cases hopefully keep them from being divorced. If they're
absolutely
choosing
right
to get married, and is this the right person for me long term kind of question. I mean, do you get that often?
Right. Yeah, I will have a lot of clients that when they first meet someone will try to almost get a predetermined feel for it. And I said, you have to allow it to unfold. You have to get to know the person over time. But knowing their essence, like I said before, it helps a great deal. But don't predetermine either. It's like, oh, you're a Capricorn. That's bad. I'm not going to even try. There's a lot of potential in every relationship to work well as long as you know what you're working with.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. And also having the information allows you to look for things because, just like you were saying earlier, there's the good and the bad. And so, I mean, in people, it's free choice. People get to choose how they show up in the world. So,
and there are some signs you can take shortcuts with. For example, I have a client who is a Sagittarius, and she just met a Capricorn. And I said, okay, if you get into any arguments or clashes, when in doubt, 3 words: skin care products. Capricorns are so every sign rules a part of the body, and Capricorn oversees the skin, and so they, male or female, they love skincare products. I'm like, when in doubt, get skincare products. They'll always be grateful to receive them.
Now, I did not know that. So every sign is attributed to an organ as well. Okay.
To a part of the body that is focused on, but also can be susceptible. So, like, for example, with the Libra, they have to pay special attention to their kidneys. They should drink much more water than the average person.
Okay. So things to
healthy.
Look out. Yeah, to look out for and to be aware of, and then
absolutely.
It allows people then to make really good decisions based on all the information provided. So,
correct.
Oh, that's fabulous. Now, do you do now? I know we talked about this at the beginning, about the birth charts or the natal charts, whatever they call those. Now,
yes,
do you do those yourself?
Yes, I do. And when I was on The Real Housewives, I analyzed each lady's birth or natal chart, is what we call it, which is where the planets are at the time of one's birth and how it makes your overall self you by each aspect of your personality being highlighted with where each of the planets were.
Okay. Now, is that information on your website? So let's say I wanted to get my birth chart, I can contact you, or how do you have it set up for people to connect with you?
Let's see. Well, the website is a relatively new creation because I had to compile things. They can contact me through the website, and they can also well, if I can give my email address, I can do that. But
please.
Astrology is a lot of things. It's a natal chart or a birth chart interpretation. It can be joining two couples together and looking at what's called a composite chart, which is looking at their dynamics of them as a couple. It could be looking at different areas of the globe and how that relates to your birth chart, as far as moving or living. It's a lot of different things and different aspects that can be very helpful to you functioning in the best possible way.
Wow, that's a lot of information, and it's amazing that you can compile all that and give people the snapshot that they need at the moment to make decisions. That's just fabulous. So they can schedule time with you for a private session,
Absolutely.
for a birth chart. Okay.
For birth chart,
perfect.
or for any other need in that sense as well.
Yeah, just hire you to help them with their love life altogether, right?
Believe me, there's a lot of people that hire me for that reason and that reason alone. So
it's a big deal. It's a big deal nowadays, because it's a commitment.
It is, and it's like no matter how technologically advanced, we still need to be loved, and that's a core human need that has not changed.
Yeah, everyone wants to feel loved and understood. So the communication part, man, I really resonate with that and understand what you're saying with that. And it all makes sense. I mean, you make
it's such a beautiful. I call it a guide to life. Like astrology is an incredible guide to just how to live and how to make the most of it.
Oh, that's fabulous. Okay, so your book, Love in the Stars, by what I'm calling, Brad Kronen, the astrologer to the stars. When's this book coming out?
Its official release date is on December 8th, and it should be in your bookstore, local bookstore near you by that time period. And for those of you in the Southern California area, I have a book signing on the 10th of December at Mystic Journey Books in Venice, California.
Venice. Yeah, in Venice. Yeah, I know that bookstore. That's fabulous. Folks at Mystic Journey, they're fabulous. Absolutely fabulous.
Yeah,
and I know.
Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. No, go ahead.
It's a great place because they have much more. They have readers there. They have all types of variations of candles, crystals, all the above for all the spiritual needs. They've got everything covered there.
Okay, and also I do want to thank Llewellyn for putting us in touch with each other. And as soon as your book comes out, I'm going to be one of the first people in line out here in Colorado picking it up.
Great.
I probably have to. I'll probably have to fight off a few people in the crowd to get my copy, but
Well, hopefully they'll be well stocked. We can only hope.
Oh, I'm sure it will be. They're, the Barnes and Nobles here, I've already kind of checked in with them, and they're expecting to get copies in. So people can go to your website, and you want to give that website address one more time?
Sure. My last name is spelled a little differently than the usual way. My name is Brad Kronen, Kronen, is in Nancy, E is in Edward, N is in Nancy, and my website is bradkronen, all one word, .com.
Oh, Thank you so much, Brad. It has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. I learned a lot about astrology. I had no idea. And I really like your approach, not just to astrology, but how you're approaching love and life. So you're definitely someone I'm going to be keeping an eye on. And when you have another book, you let me know. I'd love to have you back on the show.
I certainly will. And thank you, Marianne. Thank you for doing what you do so well as a Libra with giving such great interviews.
Well, thank you. And so to all our viewers, I want to thank you for tuning in today. And remember, make every moment count.
Join us next time for Moments with Marianne, when host Marianne Pestana brings another inspirational gifted leader to help us grow. Tune in every second Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for Moments with Marianne, when the Dream Vision 7 radio network is at 1510 a.m. Boston. Or catch Moments with Marianne every Thursday and Friday at 5 p.m. and 5 a.m. Eastern Time by going to dreamvision7radio.com. To learn how Marianne started her business from the ground up, visit mariannepestana.com. Don't miss this, and remember, make every moment count.